Good morning. It's May 22nd, 11:02 a.m. Sun shining. It's Thursday. I'm taking a day of rest. Something happened 2 days ago. I have a little story for you. It really happened. My interpretation, however, needs to be discerned by others. As people have said, this is what I do. So if I do it, I'm sharing it with you. I was at home after work about 2 or 3 days ago, and I heard a little voice in my ear say, tell me to find a dog park and to bring Marley, my dog, to the dog park. And so I got in my car and I put on my GPS. I didn't know where there was a dog park around me, so I just put dog park near me. So it brought me to the George Street dog park. It happens to be behind a quaint, odd little cemetery that has hanging moss on the trees, very eerie looking. And in the road in front of this is a railroad track. Across the road is the dog park. So I brought Marley into the dog park. Within the dog park was a lone man and a lone woman, both with 2 German Shepherd type dogs. I sat down on the bench, and the man was sitting there, and we spoke a little bit. I don't recall much of what we spoke about. He was very nice, and then he wished me well, and he walked off with his dog and went home. The woman, very tall, I'll describe her to you, very tall, slender, long, black hair, blue, the deepest, most beautiful blue eyes was there as she came over and sat down next to me. And I was looking at her, and I introduced myself. I said, hi, my name is Ev. Some people call me E. She said her name was Rebecca. I don't know why. I mean, I was entranced by the deep, deep blue eyes. Very young, but almost ageless. And I started telling her my stories about the Black Madonna, what I call the WTF, spiritual moments in my life, when these lone women have appeared to me and then disappeared, and nobody has ever seen them, but they've left me with spiritual messages that go beyond time. And I once described these experiences to a therapist, and she said, it sounds like you're being visited by the archetype of the Black Madonna. Okay. Black Madonna happens to be the Blessed Mother, and she's a statue, and she's not per se black skinned, but through time the statues have worn dark and battered. Okay, so and to be visited by this archetype is to be highly honored and to be reminded of your spiritual path and the love that God holds for you. So I was sitting telling this woman, Rebecca, about all these stories. I don't know why I was telling her my Black Madonna stories. I felt compelled to tell her. And I asked her, I told her had been on a spiritual awakening journey, and was coming out of it. And I asked her, she had a tattoo of a dragon on her right arm, and then by the wrist or whatever, she had a skull and roses. And I looked at her and I said, I asked her, I said, are you New Age spirituality awakened? And she said, she just looked at me and she says, I don't know what I would term it. So I said, are you Wiccan? Are you Wiccan? Goddess energy? And she said, when I was younger, I was. My friends and I were. And she says, but I gave that up. And then I asked her if she had any powers, and she said she wasn't sure. So I said, well, I've been awakened with some abilities. I said, are you in the health field? And she said, well, I'm a dental assistant. And I said, I was going to ask you if you were in social work, because that's what came to me. And she said, that's my path where I'm going to. I said, well, what capacity in social work are you seeking? And she said, I want to work with children with trauma. And I looked at her. I said, oh, trauma. I said, it's a beautiful, beautiful goal. He said, tell me. I said, Rebecca, you see a thin man, very tall, thin man. He wears t-shirts or muscle shirts, and he has short cropped hair, sort of brownish hair, very nice features. I said, do you know who that is? And she said, you're describing my boyfriend. And I said, I tell you something. I said, he's going to stub his toe, and he's going to bruise it, and it's going to bleed, and he's going to come home and tell you about that. I want you to remember that I told you this. Don't tell him in advance that I told you this is going to happen. I said, I don't know, I'm just being guided to tell you that this will happen, and you're to remember that I told you, and then you can tell him that you had met this strange little old lady in the dog park who told you that this happened. I said, it's nothing bad. It's not bad. I just don't know why I'm telling you, but you need to know about this. Maybe, and then I showed her Margot Bettner's page, and I said, this woman knows a lot about trauma. She's a psychic. I said, you may be interested in following her. And I said she may be able to help you on your path. And her dog was named after a wolf or a dragon. I don't remember the name of the dog. Vishnu or something. I don't know. German Shepherd. Part German Shepherd, part Husky. And I told her my stories of my dog and how she is the reincarnation of my previous beagle that I had only for 2 years, and how she came to me through a psychic reading, and she listened to me, and I said, Rebecca, have you ever had any visions or heard any voices? And she said, yes, once. I said, what did it say? And she said, it told me everything's going to be all right. Don't worry. I said, trust that. I said, well, as I'm being called to go, And I stood up and her dog ran off. And she took, after the dog, I tried to take a picture of her. And my camera wouldn't work. So I said, okay. I left. I said to her, maybe I'll see you again. And she said, yes. She didn't say much. The eyes were deep as the sea, ancient as the waters of time. Her beauty was golden. I don't know who she was. But I came home. All of a sudden I felt, you have no worries anymore. You're going to be at peace. This was a moment when God brought you somebody. So I went home, I got in my bed and I lay down and I went to sleep and I woke up and I said, let me look up the archetype of what a tall, thin woman with long dark hair and deep blue eyes signifies. I looked it up, I Googled it. I almost fell over, guys. It is the archetype of the dark feminine, Lilith. And Lilith is also symbolized in New Age spirituality as the Black Madonna, also the dark feminine and the Blessed Mother and new beginnings. And I sat there and when I read that, I said, oh my God, thank you. To me, the world of the universe, and in my mind, was bringing me a synchronicity. I was being visited by the Blessed Mother and being told it's going to be all right. You know, as I was talking to her, I felt we were mirroring each other. I once had a dog, a German Shepherd Husky mix. I once believed in Wiccan, studied Wiccan. I hold no judgments. I've often thought of becoming a social worker. I've often thought of working with traumatized people. I call traumatized adults my children. I'm leaving you with this story. I don't know what it means. I called my friend Nancy, who I haven't spoken to in a long time, and I told her the story. And she said, Ev, you always do this. I said, well, you do it too. I said, so I thought you would understand. And she said, it's nice when the universe gives us confirmation, isn't it? She says, but you love to tell the stories. She says, and you love to confound people when you meet them. You make them think. So guys, think about this. The mysteries of God, the mysteries that we're being sent, and the mysteries we're meant to hear in our hearts. I love you. I'm going to get gas. A very kind person gave me a gift of $50, and I can get some gas. I took today off, though. I don't feel so great, but for whatever reason, we go forward, okay, in the name of love and light and peace. I love you. I really do.